Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Okay, now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight. Our main speaker is Hector.
Hello everybody, my name is Hector and I am an alcoholic. We don't speak after the meeting starts. You see, 100,000 people die every year of this disease. 100,000. And that's the reason why I don't talk when I come to AA meetings. That's what I do. Some of the people share at the birthdays. See, there is sober behavior and drunk behavior. At AA meetings, we show sober behavior. I want to thank my friend Jerry for asking me to speak. It's always an honor and a privilege to speak in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't want to be a speaker. I wanted to be a sex symbol. But I didn't make it, so I had to stay in AA. I'm going to start at the very beginning. But before I speak, I want to tell you something. Whatever I say from the podium really applies to me. You see, what I'm going to share is my experience, strength, and hope, and my opinion. Unfortunately, I happen to be very opinionated, and I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. I'm going to start at the very beginning. My father is an Arab, my mother is an Italian, and I was born in Argentina. I'm glad you think it's funny. I think I came out Japanese. They were poor, they were illiterate, they were violent, they dressed badly, and they smell even worse. We're poor like in Argentina, poor in this country's middle class all around the world. And they were very, very violent. But I didn't know I was an abused child until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. You see, here they give you all these problems, you know. I was talking to one of the guys I sponsored. I was telling him that my mother used to chain me to the sewing machine. And he said, oh my God, you were an abused child? Was I? You see, I didn't think it was anything because my mother was also chained my kid sister and the dog. She was an equal opportunity chainer, you know what I mean? She didn't like you, she chained you, you know, so. And what she used to do, you know, what really frightened me is when I would do something mischievous, she said, I'm not going to chase after you. You had to come to sleep. So when I was sound asleep, at 1 o'clock in the morning, she would uncover me and beat me up with a shoe or a piece of wood. My father was a little more violent. He would get angry, grab a knife or a gun, and we all run to the street because he's going to kill us. You know, so my first dream as a child in Argentina was not to be president of Argentina, a doctor, or a movie star. My first dream as a child was to kill my daddy. What are you going to do, Hector, when you grow up? I'm going to kill my daddy. So and we were very, very poor. You know, we had dirt floors, no running water, and both my parents were illiterate. But I knew I was coming to America since I was 8 years old, and I knew I didn't belong to that family. And I got into sports, and I became an athlete. And when I was 18, I left the house. When I was 24, I came to America. Oh, by the way, I came here legally, okay? So don't get any funny ideas. If you don't like my pitch, you cannot call immigration. It's too late now. I'm an American citizen. And I went to New York, and I started working in advertising. And I worked really, really hard. And this is a magnificent country. When you work hard, you can do all kinds of things. And so within 18 months in this country, I went to Europe for 4 months. And I saw every museum and every cathedral and every piece of art. And I don't know where that came from, because in my house there wasn't a single painting in the entire house. But I always loved art and beauty and order. Because you see, my house was very filthy. My mother was filthy. The house was filthy. And I never invited anybody there. So I said, when I live by myself in America, I'm going to have a gorgeous home and going to dress properly. So I thought I'd come here and all that would die. It didn't. And I was always very isolated before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. They call alcoholism the disease of loneliness. Because you see, if you get to know me, you're not going to like me because I'm a piece of garbage. And I went to Europe and I came back. And I was always really working, so I always lived well since I came here. But I didn't know I had an accent. If you think I have an accent now, you should have heard me, 45 years ago when I came here. And I remember I took this day to see a movie with Gina LaBridge and Rock Hudson. And all of a sudden I realized Gina had an accent. And I said to this lady, "Oh, Gina has thick accent." And she said, "Oh, no, it's very charming, just like yours." "I have accent?" "Yes, and it's adorable." I wanted to kill her. And I go home and I bought a tape recorder. And caca, did I have an accent? I sounded like Frito Bandito, you know what I mean? Now I sounded like my parents. And that's basically why I drank, because I never liked anything about myself. I'm too short. My head is too big in proportion to the body. Once I read a book by Leonardo da Vinci, and he was a genius. And he said that the perfectly proportioned man is 7 times the size of his head. So I measure my head. This is extra large. And in those days I had an afro, it was even bigger. According to that, I'm supposed to be 7 feet 2 inches tall. You see my nose? It looks like a bell pepper, right? I'm glad you think it's funny. I had a nose job. I'm the only person I know who looks exactly the same before and after. I don't think it's funny. So anyway, I'm kind of rushing with my drunk club because I want to talk about God and the steps. And I began drinking because I could not stomach myself. The world hurt. The world is painful. And when I drank, I was tall. I was good looking. I spoke perfect English. I was a loud asshole. That's what I was. And I got punched a lot, you know what I mean? And kicked out of places. Because I have a big mouth, but I don't know how to fight. And and I had my first suicide attempt. Don't ask me why. I don't remember. I'm very sensitive. Maybe the doorman didn't say good morning to me, and I'll kill myself. I'll teach him a lesson. And I took 40 pills, and it was magnificent. It was so peaceful, like a horizontal line was coming down. I don't have to be tall. I don't have to speak perfect English. I don't have to conquer New York. It was so peaceful. Of course it was. I was dying. But the phone rang. I'm in my deathbed, but I'm nosy. So I picked up the phone. It was my friend Rudy. And Rudy realized right away what happened. He says, "Hector, if you don't call me in 5 minutes from Bellevue Hospital, I call the cops." Click, he hung up. Oh my God. I want to be dead, but I don't want the cops in my house. How embarrassing, So I floated to Bellevue Hospital. and they pumped my stomach, and they made me see shrink. And I saw tons and tons of shrinks, and they were all good, but they could not help me because I never told them the truth. And I had another suicide attempt. I threw myself in front of the bus. Well, it didn't stop pissing me off. You know, when I came to AA, I didn't think my life was unmanageable. People throw themselves in front of the bus all the time. You know, very normal behavior. And I realized I was so upset because I had achieved the American dream. I had the furniture from Bloomingdale's. I had a beautiful apartment facing Manhattan, you know, and I had great clothes, and I didn't realize why I was always so unhappy. You taught me why when I came here. You told me that I was looking for a material solution to a spiritual problem. And you told me nothing that I can see with my eyes can fix my insides. Nothing. Not the girlfriend, not the boyfriend, not the house, not the car, not the money. Those things give us physical comfort. But the inner peace is what it says on the page 45, the big book. The main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself that will solve your problem. It's nothing that I see with my eyes. And because I came from garbage and I always had nothing, I thought because I had all the beautiful things that I had bought in America, I was going to be okay, and I was not okay. I was a pathetic little man, depressed all the time. And you will get to know me in the office, but I'm not going to invite you home. Because remember, if you get to know me, you'll think I'm a piece of garbage. You know, and one day I used to crawl around my apartment, you know, drunk, asking God to kill me. And one day I came to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I realized what my problem was. My problem is New York. This is a hostile, horrible place, you know. I have to move to a more caring, nurturing place. So I moved to Hollywood. And you know, by now I had become an actor because I knew if I become an actor, I was going to be really happy if everybody loved me. And I did a commercial, and 2 commercials, and 3 commercials. Oh, Hector, any idiot can do commercials. Even Joe Namath can do commercials. No, Hector, you had to do theater. And God said, I'll show you, little asshole. And he put me in this play. And this play went to Broadway, and we won the award to the best play of the year. And I felt like a piece of garbage. So I moved to Hollywood, you know. And I'm a Latino guy. When that was in 1975. I had black hair, black mustache. I was always playing bad guys, you know. I guest starred in all those shows, you know. I was killing people, molesting women, selling children, smuggling dope. I've been handcuffed on TV more times than the Menendez brothers, you know what I mean? So finally I get a part in a TV movie called Wanted, The Sundance Woman. You know, it's the sequel to Butch Cassidy. This one was Catherine Ross. And I'm going to get to save the girl. I'm going to be the good guy. So they gave me the part, and I go home, and I'm so happy. And the director called me at home and said, Hector, we forgot to ask you a question. Can you ride a horse? Can I ride a horse? I'm a gaucho from Argentina. I was born on a horse. I lied. Now we'll get to Tucson. We do all the interiors, and then we're going to do the exteriors. We're going to ride around the jail and save Catherine Ross. So they put me on top of the stupid animal. Now, if you ride properly, this is the horse, this is you. Nice. When I did it was like this. He got so upset. Hector, we told you, did we ask you, why did you lie? And then made me practice for 4 hours. I hate horses. After 4 hours, I couldn't get off the horse. When I got off, I could not get my legs together. It was like this. And my ass was a huge blister. So I couldn't sit. So I got some booze, and I went to my hotel and got stinking drunk. And the next morning I said to the director, "Excuse me, sir, I cannot do the take. You know, my ass is a huge blister." He says, "Hector, we don't give a shit. You see behind you, there's 200 extras. We cannot hire them tomorrow. You had to do it today." So they put, wet towels on that thing. What do you call that thing? The saddle, right? And they put me on top of that stupid animal. It was so embarrassing. I'm playing this heavy-duty macho bandito, with a mustache, the guns, the bullets across my chest, sitting on wet towels, It's very embarrassing. And so we're going to do the last take, and the 6 of us principal lined up on our horses, right? 200 Mexicans on horses behind us. And the way they do it, they have the Marlboro guys, the wranglers, hold the reins like that. It's action. They slap the horses in the ass, and we take off. So my wrangler is there. They give me the gun and says, "Hector, don't cock the gun until you're galloping. Because you see, those blanks are really dangerous. If I get you this close, I'll blow your eyes out." Remember that good-looking guy who killed himself playing Russian roulette? That's right. He killed himself. You see, but I have a hangover. So I cock the gun like this, and I hold it like this. So at least I'm going to get one shot, right? So the horse goes, boom. Oh, my God, I shot the wrangler in the ass. Oh, he wasn't happy. So we do the take, right? And now we're going to do the retake because it was not good. So he's holding the horse like this, now really far away. I'm an alcoholic, and I have a hangover, but I'm not stupid. I cocked the gun again, but I put it next to my leg. And the horse goes, boom. Oh, my God, I shot my leg. My costume is in flames. I don't care. I have to say Catherine Ross. So we start galloping, right? And the flames start coming up. And by the end of the take, it was like a torch on top of the horse. So I get to the place they threw me on the floor, the blankets, and they put the flames out, and I had a hole about this big on my calf, right? So they rushed me to the hospital. They rushed me to LA, and I had to be in the hospital for a whole month. And I had to have 2 operations, one to remove the infection, one for a skin graft. While I was in the hospital, my agent didn't send me flowers. I'm very sensitive. You don't send me flowers, I'll kill myself. I'll teach you a lesson. So I asked my friend Irene to bring me the pills. By the way, I was not into pills, really. I was just an alcoholic. But I always had like 40 pills in case I wanted to kill myself. I remember only once somebody in the gym gave me a pill. He called it a Black Beauty. Oh, you drug addicts. Black Beauty. Wow. He said to me, "If you take one of these pills are going to have so much energy." So I go home and I took it. I couldn't stop. I cleaned the whole apartment twice in one day. I began making plans for the rest of my life, you know what I mean? But the only thing that I couldn't close my mouth, it was like this. Never again, So while I was in the hospital, I asked my friend Irene to bring me the pills, because I'm very depressed. My agent didn't send me flowers. So I took the pills, and that was my last suicide attempt. I was in coma for 3 days. I had 2 cardiac arrests. They had to revive me twice. Basically, I was dead for 3 days. When I came to, I had 15 tubes, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. I had been dead for 3 days. They had to revive me twice. And I had everything. I had a new Mercedes, I had a gorgeous apartment, gorgeous clothes. I had enough money to live a whole year without working. The only thing I didn't have was Hector. I didn't know who I was. One of you described me in one of the meetings. He said, and that was me, he said, I was a huge ball of fear covered with a little human skin. So the book says a fear is like a thief with all of us alcoholics because it robs us of our lives. Anyway, 9 months later, after I got out of the hospital, my shrink sent me to AA. And I've been sober 26 years. And I do now the same things that I did, 26 years ago. I go to meetings, I have a sponsor. I sponsor about 10 guys. I work the steps, I pray, I meditate, and I have 3 commitments. And I don't do that because I'm good or spiritual. I do that because I don't want to die. In 26 years, I've seen so many people die who were in the program. That's why I was so serious at the beginning. It's wonderful that we have all this energy like you have. It's wonderful to hear the laughter. But it also has to be the sober behavior, because this is not a social event. We come here to be healed by the power of Alcoholics Anonymous. We come here to hear you tell me what to do, to hear you guide me, to hear you show me. And I have to pay attention, because otherwise it'd be like my friend Joe Allen. He had 27 years sobriety, 28 sobriety, and stopped going to meetings, and the wife left him, and he killed himself. I like my life. I have a beautiful life. I have beautiful friends. I have a beautiful family. I have friends all over the world. And you taught me how to do it. When I came to AA, I had a problem with God, because I came from a Catholic background. And my God was not a loving, caring God. My God was a punishing God. And I'm not putting down the religion. It was my concept of God. My God looked like Charlton Heston, and he behaved like Leona Hemsley. And I had to find a God that I could really use, something that could really help me. And I read a great deal of spiritual literature, and I found this definition of God that really helped me. And I want to share it with you, but remember, it applies only to me. Joel Goldsmith said, regardless of how high my concept of God is, it is wrong, because it is still a concept. Eventually I have to lose all concepts and reach the consciousness, like conscious contact, the consciousness that God is. And then leave the subject alone, because with the mind, I'm never going to understand what God is. The big book says the same thing on page 46. Even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which we call God. And on page 53, the book, our phenomenal book, says, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? And our book also tells us where to find God. Because you see, I thought God was floating someplace in the sky. But the book says, we found, page 55, we found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. So I came to believe, because the book says that God is my Father, that God's DNA is inside of me. All the affable, wonderful qualities that God has, I have. And it was his pleasure to give them to me. And inside of me and inside all of you, all of us, there's divinity. There's an untouched thing, a quality that is unsoiled. It doesn't matter what you did, how much you drank, what drugs you used. There's something untouched. The book calls it God's grace. And the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are tools, spiritual tools, to get in touch with that which is inside of all of us. It's an incredible thing. People say, work the steps to achieve sobriety. Yes, the end result of working the step is sobriety. But for me, just for me, not for you. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous are spiritual tools to develop a conscious contact with God. And if that is done, the obsession will be removed. It says so on the 12 on 12, page 32. The fact we really had not clean house, so that the grace of God could enter us and expel the obsession. Therefore, we remain self-deceived and so incapable of receiving enough grace to restore us to sanity. Wow. So that's what I have to do. I have to get in touch with that divinity, through that quality which is inside of me. But the book tells me I am blocked from the sunshine of the Spirit. And what are my blockages? My blockages are my character defects. You see, I cannot contact God if I have hate, anger, I steal, I cheat, and lie. This has to be cleaned because that's all I am, an instrument through which God can really work. And God, you taught me that God doesn't do anything to me or for me. He does it through me. So this has to be clean. So the first step says I have a problem. The second step says I need a solution. The third step says that solution is God. I have to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. And what is my will? I didn't know. You told me. My will is my thoughts. My thoughts. As a man thinketh, so is he in his heart. Thoughts are things. Just think about the clothes you're wearing, your shoes, the chair you're sitting on, this building. All started with a thought that was taken to fruition by somebody who created that. You see? So thoughts are things. The big book says the same thing. Page 23. The main problem with the alcoholic center in his mind rather than in his body. Thought. And what is my life? I didn't know. You told me. My life is my actions. The sum total of my actions. See, a man is not judged by what he wears, how much he makes, but what he drives, or how well he speaks. A man or a woman, he or she is judged by his actions. Emerson said, your actions speak so loud, I cannot hear what you're saying. So after I surrender my life to God, and what does it mean to turn my will and my life over to God? It means that I had to put God first. That's it. I had to surrender my life to God. And I had to make it a conscious contact. See, God knows where I am. He didn't lose my file. I have to make daily contact through prayer, meditation, and actions helping you. So, how do I cleanse this? Step 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is the relationship with myself. I do the inventory. And I share with myself, with God, and my sponsor. But I said, no, I've been to psychiatry, for 15, 17 years. It's not the same. This is very humbling when you sit in front of somebody for 2 or 3 hours and you read all the character defects, all the garbage you've done in one take. When you shrink, you go. This month I tell them this. Next month, maybe I'll tell somebody else. No. 4 and 5 is all in one. And then I do 6 and 7. When you were telling what the guys I sponsor, are doing the 4th and 5th, I make notes about all the people they have to make amends. And also I make notes of all the character defects. And I make them do a list. Character defects, opposite, the qualities. They have to substitute that. Hate, we put love on the other side. Stealing, honesty. So when we do 6 and 7 and we do the 7th step prayer, then I ask God to remove this and please replace it with this. So we have a goal, something to achieve. We have to work towards this. And then I do 8 and 9. 8 and 9 is my relationship with the universe. See, don't come to the altar to really ask God for anything unless you're cleansed inside. You see? I have to really make amends with all of you. And after that comes 10. But it's interesting about 10. You see, when we were wrong, when I am wrong, do you notice in the big book there isn't a chapter about them? You see, the steps is to work on Hector. And Hector doesn't remove his character defects. God's could and would if he were sought. I just surrender myself to God. I ask God, please, help me with this. So that's 10. And then we do 11. After I have a relationship with God, how do I improve that relationship? Prayer and meditation. My friend Harvey says a little joke about prayer and meditation. It's prayers when I talk to God. And when I hear God talking back to me, it's called schizophrenia. Prayer is only done, like book says, pray only for God's will. Because I don't know what's good for me. I thought having the Mercedes was good for me. Seeing myself on Broadway or seeing myself on television was good for me. And that was going to fix me. It didn't. So obviously I don't know what's good for me. Prayer just is dialogue with God. To really know what his will is for me. I have to make contact. If I want to be friend with you, I have to talk to you. And it's wonderful that we had the set prayers that we learned from this wonderful book. But it's important also that I talk to God in my own way. That I establish a dialogue with God. That I communicate. And I'm not talking about 2 hours, half an hour, 30 seconds. God, please show me what I'm supposed to do. Guide me. I'm very angry. Please show me the way. Tell me. Show me. And something happens. And what happens after that is meditation. Isn't it interesting that the 11th step ends in meditation, which is silence? It's prayer and meditation. Why is that? I think it's because silence is the language of God. Somebody said, be still and know that I am God. He didn't say run around with your cell phone, eating, driving, and listening to music and know that I am God. Be still. Be still. Quiet, Hector. See, meditation, I go within to hear the still small voice which is inside of me. And let go of the world of conditions and circumstances, because that's always an illusion. The reality of my life is inside of me. What you see right now is not Hector. This is the bodysuit. The real Hector is inside of me. And by the way, we work the program together, but we enter the kingdom of God alone. You had to find your own way to get in touch with a higher power that the book says is inside of all of us. And what do I do after I do 11? I do service. Because the book says faith without works is dead. And it says it 3 times. I can sound like Mother Teresa from the podium, but if I don't work with my guys, I don't go to answer the phone, I don't clean up after my Sunday meeting, my program is worth nothing. And what is service? It's God made visible. It's God in action. The people who did that coffee, that's God in action. The people who clean up after we leave, that's God in action. That's God made visible. You see, service, a great master knows that he's just a humble servant. That's it. The more you know, the more the only healing that we get, really, this is a spiritual truth. It's the love I give you. It's wonderful that you love me, but it's infinitely much more important that I love you. That's what the big book says. When everything else fails, it doesn't say go out and buy a new car. When everything else fails, go and find a newcomer, somebody to work with, somebody to love, somebody to put your arms around him or her and help them. Welcome newcomers. I thank God for you, that he sent you to us. This is your family. We are uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your papas, grandpapas. I'm your great-grandpapa. This is your spiritual family. Jerry was talking to me. He went to the international. There were 170 countries. 170 countries. I spoke in all over Europe, well, all over here, 2 or 3 places in Europe and South America. And it's all the same, really. But you know what? I shouldn't say this. We have the best AA here in LA. Wow. Do we have the best AA? You know, I went to Argentina. I'm from Argentina, and I bought an apartment there. And I would go to meetings there, and they were doing therapy, group therapy. They were talking about, my shrink said this today. Oh, I'm taking only 2 pills a day now for my depression. You know what I mean? But I have 30 years sobriety, a lady said. And she made a mistake to say in front of me. Okay, I talked about my parents, you know, and the book says the resentment is #1 killer with AAs. It doesn't exempt parents. So I had to look at my mother. Yes, she beat me up a few times, and she also was an illiterate person. My father beat her up, and she once in a while beat me up. And that was wrong. I'm not condoning that. But you know, she got up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, and she worked until 11 o'clock at night. There is no welfare in Argentina. She worked at 2 jobs for an entire year. And even so, we didn't make ends meet. But I always had my books. She sent me to 12 years of school. I had my shoes to play basketball. She paid for drawing lessons. And you know, we were very poor, so we didn't have money for a Christmas tree. But she took a broomstick and some wire and green crepe paper, and she made me a Christmas tree. 4 branches, 5 branches, 6 branches. It was about this tall. She went out for $1 and bought 4 decorations, 4 balls and 1 point. But I had my Christmas tree, and every year got a little bigger. And when I was 12 years old, in Argentina, you had to buy your kid a bicycle. She worked at 2 jobs, like 14 hours a day, and she bought me my bicycle for Christmas. I had the best bicycle in the neighborhood. This poor lady, no bathroom, no floors, totally ignorant, she got me the best bicycle. So guess what? She was doing the best she could with the tools she had. She made mistakes. So did I. In sobriety. And I had to make amends. And when I went to make my 8th and 9th, I didn't want justice. I wanted those people to forgive me. So I have to forgive my mom and my dad. Not for them, for me. Because if I don't, I'll always have problem with authority figures. My boss, my sponsor, the policeman. So I sent her a ticket. I brought it before I had my house, to my apartment. When she arrived, she had a 12 feet tall Christmas tree, real pine, decorated in her favorite colors, pink and red. Thank you. And I told my mom, you know, how much I loved her. And I thanked her for all the things she did for me when I was a child. And I never, ever mentioned what she did wrong. We don't do that in AA. We take care of this side of the street. And when she died, our relationship was healed. And now when I think about my mom, I smile. It's perfect. I have 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you about my dad. My dad had moved back to Syria. I hadn't heard from him in 12 years. And all of a sudden, when I have about 14 years sobriety, I get a letter from Syria saying, "How you doing, son? I haven't heard from you." Of course he hadn't. I didn't know where he was. So I said, "I want you to send me some money because I had to pay some bills, some taxes." Son of a bitch. He writes me because he needs money after 14 years. And then he says, and of course, you know, my family says if nobody talks to me from the other side of the ocean, I must have done something wrong. If I did, I apologize. Ha! Did you do something wrong? And I began writing back and listing everything he did wrong. And now I'm in AA, I don't lie. This is a long list, very long. And then I made a mistake. I asked an old-timer what to do. Newcomers never do that. Keep it to yourself. And she said, Hector, would you rather be at peace or would you rather be right? I'd rather be right. But I sent them a letter, but that was not enough, and I went back to my shrink, the one who sent me to AA 26 years ago, and he said, you had to go to Syria and meet your father. You don't know who your father is. So I landed in Syria. And this giant that used to beat me up, that I was so afraid of, is about this tall. This little old man, bald-headed, wispy white hair, baggy pants, running towards me like this, and he embraces me, starts kissing me all over the face. I said, who is this man? I don't know my dad. My dad either fought with my mom or he worked. And he took me to his village. And he told me his story. His father died when he was 6 months old. The mother was 15. She never went to school. He never went to school. How is he going to know how to be a loving, caring, nurturing father? He had no idea. Most of us don't get it at home, but at least we went to school. The teachers taught us something. He never went to school, but he loved me. He really, really loved me. You know, I just did not love him. He loved me so much that he made me dress in a three-piece suit in this very, very poor village. I mean, if you think of Mexico's poor, Mexico's like Switzerland next to Syria. You know, and invited all the villagers from the village to say hello to my son Hector. And they all had to greet me and shake my hand. Even a blind person walked into the house and they guided his hand, a beggar without shoes, and they guided his hand to touch my face so that he too may know what Brahim's son looked like. That's how much he loved me. I just did not love him. But after 8 days talking with him and being with him, God worked through me. And I appreciated what he was, a simple little peasant doing the best he could. And when I left at the airport, I knew I was not going to see him again because I was not going back to Syria. And I said, Dad, I love you very, very much. And I'm so proud that you're my dad. And he looked at me and we were both crying and sobbing. And he said, son, I am 10 times more proud that you're my son. I'm so proud of you, what you've done with your life. And this trip to my little village is the most beautiful present you could have given me. No money in the world could make me happier. And we kissed and I left. And when I came to America, I came back here, something very subtle had changed. I always looked like a man, I sounded like a man, I accomplished like a man, I dressed like a man, but inside myself I was a 12-year-old child. Emotionally, because being a man was being like my father, and I hated my father. Now when I think about my dad, I smile. And now I know what a real man is, or a real woman. Has nothing to do with the profession, with the car, all those things, and they're wonderful. A real man or real woman is somebody who is at peace with himself. Because in the final analysis, I don't live in my beautiful home with the 3 bedrooms and the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the garden. I live in here. This is what has to be remodeled, Hector. Because wherever I go, I take Hector with me. And that's what the 12 steps are for, to cleanse this so we can be in touch with our higher powers and have a wonderful, productive, open, great life. And you taught me that, and I love you and I thank you.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.